Hey everyone, and welcome back to the So Rude podcast. I'm Paige Ruderman, and today I am beyond excited to welcome a very special guest to the show. Talia Solomon is a fractional chief marketing officer and brand advisor with over 15 years of experience helping global entertainment, food, and lifestyle brands turn consumer insights into millions in revenue. With a background in psychology and a marketing career spanning some of the world's most iconic brands, Pizza Hut, Ring, WeightWatchers, NBC Universal, Showtime, Discovery, and more, Talia has mastered the art of understanding what makes consumers tick and, just as importantly, what makes brands money. Her superpower, knowing where to look, what to look for, and how to craft marketing strategies that drive real impact. I first met Talia in the summer of 2018 in New York City when we worked at the same company, and I was immediately struck by her innovative marketing expertise. Since then, I've continued to be amazed by the insights she shares, the case studies she discusses on her social platforms, and the way she approaches brand strategy. Today, we'll dive into her journey from psychology to consumer insights, marketing, and brand building, and most importantly, how those of you tuning in can apply her wisdom to grow your own brands, especially as artists in the music industry. Talia, welcome to the So Rude podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh, Paige, I am so excited as well. And thank you for that very, very generous introduction. I'm so excited to be here. I definitely feel a little bit over my skis. I know nothing about indie music. So when you first reached out to me, I was like, this is complete imposter. Like, I probably only listen to Taylor Swift and 90s music. Anything that's indie and not like fully mainstream is completely off my radar. So I know in our original conversation, you were kind of schooling me on just some of the basic terms and understanding some of the nuances of music. So I have a lot to learn from you as well. But yeah, I'm hopeful that we can uncover some accessible and practical conversations and applications to share with your audience.
I know for a fact that people tuning in today are going to take away so much from it because truly, as independent artists and musicians and writers, the biggest hurdle is like, okay, I have all of these skills, but how do I apply them? How do I showcase what I can bring? And that's where it's truly a marketing and brand building game. And that's why I am so excited to dig into all of your expertise. Before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background or anything I may have missed in the bio?
I have an interesting background because my entire peer set most likely has, an advertising or marketing, kind of that classical background. I did not have that at all. I have a psychology background. I thought I was going to get my PhD in psychology and have a private practice and see clients. And it was actually my senior year of college that my professor gave us an assignment. And he said, whoever gets the most views on a video that you upload will get an automatic 100 in the course. So we had to just create a video about something we were relatively interested in or passionate about. Mine was water conservation. That wasn't the crux of the story. The crux was, how do we just get people to go to this link and view it? Because that's what he had assigned us and that's what he was measuring us on. When it came time for him to grade all of us, he said, most people had like 72 views. They send it to their aunts and their uncles. Talia has like 3,000. Like, what did you do? And I was like, I stood in front of McKeldin Library, which was the University of Maryland's main hub, and I handed out lollipops that said Obama sex tape on them with a link to my video. Of course, it was not a sex tape. And I didn't realize at the time, but my professor was like, you understand marketing. And I was like, what? He's like, you should really check out marketing. He's like, you're leveraging clickbait. I was like, what's clickbait? Like, I knew instinctively that no one gives a shit about watching my water video, but it made it seem like it was relevant to something happening in culture or socially, then maybe people would have more interest. So you learned a lot in marketing about cultural relevance. And I think I just knew that instinctively. And I think I proved that out with that project. So net is I got the highest grade in the class. I got an immediate 100 because I blew everyone out of the water with my views. And he's like, you should really intern in marketing and just see if you like it. It's a lot more lucrative than the path you're headed down. I'm happy to support you on the path you're headed down, but just check out marketing. And so I listened to him and still need to give a shout out to Scott Roberts. I know I've messaged you, Scott, on LinkedIn a couple of years ago to thank you for kind of completely reorienting my trajectory. But I honestly think about him all the time because I would have been on a completely different path. Based on Scott's recommendation, I got an internship at Discovery Channel. It was like 3 miles away from the University of Maryland. And I really, really was like, oh, wow, I like this. I like understanding how to wrap a message, what angle to take to make a message most kind of interesting, most salient, most worth actioning on. I was in the room when we named Say Yes to the Dress. So I was in a lot of naming exercises. Marketing has it's so expansive. I didn't realize until I was really in it. And even as you kind of traverse across industries, which I started to do, after Discovery, I was at other TV networks like Bravo and Showtime, but Showtime is a subscription business. So that has a little bit of a different experience and business model. Then I went to WeightWatchers, which is completely different. Then I was at Amazon with Ring. And every year for the first 2 years or 3 years, it was like, I have my GRE, it's about to expire. Should I, just try to apply it to schools again? Because once that GRE expires, like there was no way in hell I was taking that exam again. So it was like, I have my GRE score. It's either now or never. And I remember the third year when it was officially expiring. And so it was like, I'm making the call to just like really forego, my original plan of psychology. But it just made so much sense. And I don't think that I really forewent my path in psychology. I think I use it all the time. I say that I feel like every day I'm like running social experiments, like I'm in a lab. When I was at Pizza Hut, or even right now on another one of my pizza clients, just changing out an image of pizza and changing the toppings from sausage to pepperoni. Pepperoni is a lot more broadly appealing. You'll drive a lot more mix and conversion into that product. Did a study on another brand where I put most popular on top of one of our most profitable items and started to just really like increase that item on checks by like 17%. Because that's social proof. And that's something you learn in psychology. There's a herd mentality. People want to follow the crowd. So you say something's most popular, and a lot of people are like, oh, okay, I'll trust whoever they are that says it's the most popular. So leveraging those kind of things in just kind of the macro brand strategy, but also some of those like really lower funnel tactical opportunities are just like, to me, daily experiments that I get to run in service of surprising, delighting customers and consumers, but also like driving a business's bottom line. So I love that value creation on both ends. Ideally, you're bringing products and promos to market that are going to resonate and work for what consumers are looking for, but equally going to work for the company's economics and profitability. So I like that convergence, that overlap, threading that needle between where the two kind of collide. So yeah, that was how I got started. And that just set my path. I was at, as you mentioned, was at Discovery Channel, was at Bravo. A lot of people love hearing about Bravo because Watch What Happens Live. I, worked with all the Vanderpump Kids, the Real Housewives franchises, introduced the first scripted series. That was super exciting and a really fun time to be there. WeightWatchers, when we worked together, that was when Oprah had just signed. So that was a really exciting time to be there as well, if you remember. And just, had an opportunity to really be a lot of brands during like transformational periods, which I love. And just love spotting opportunities, big and small.
That is fascinating. Oh my God, there are so many nuggets in there. I cannot wait to dig into really fast. I just have to ask, you were there naming Say Yes to the Dress?
Yes.
Oh my God. You think of like Velcro and people like call something Velcro, but Velcro is really a brand. It's like every single wedding dress company out there has a I said yes sign. Even if they don't
Yes,
say yes to the dress, it was truly a movement in the bridal industry.
exactly. No, for sure. I love naming exercises. And again, I think when I was saying about just how broad the entire like marketing landscape is, there's so much to do. Everything has an impact in some way, right? So like a show's success, yes, of course, it's related to the actual content itself, and that's super important. And also the talent you're going to have, how well known they are, how attractive they are, how much press you get. But the name of the show is also really important. So it's like when you're starting in that room and producers are saying, this is what the show is going to be. It's going to be people coming in with their people that they're closest to try on dresses. And what we're going to be looking for is whether or not they're ready to commit to a dress or not. You go back and forth and you throw all these names on whiteboard. And then obviously, you have a few that you really like. I just helped with one of my clients, Maggiano's. Similarly, we introduced what we were calling the hero of the menu, which was our new veal parm. And veal parm just didn't sound exciting enough. In order to make it be like the star of the menu, we knew we wanted a really kind of elevated name. So I thought of the name La Reserva. It felt more premium, elite. It felt like it was like the reserve, like something that wasn't for everyone, but was kind of for that special occasion and could really command the increased price that it had versus the rest of the menu. And now La Reserva is moving a lot of units. I don't know what it would have done if we had named it veal parm. you can already perceive there's a very big difference between if you saw La Reserva on a menu, and underneath it, of course, you would describe veal parm breaded, but the name is so important. And I always just have thought it's so much fun to be a part of those conversations, whether it's for a product or a show or a menu item.
Yeah.
Marketers get to do it all.
Oh my gosh. And that immediately makes me think of artists that are trying to build their brand. Do I go with my name? Do I make a stage name? Do I do a play off of my name, but it's like slightly more easier to pronounce or to look up? All of those things can become decisions as an artist
Exactly.
is trying to build their brand.
Exactly. And I can imagine there's like a Madonna, which is a very kind of unique, it's not even a stage name though. I guess that is her real name, but I'm trying to think of another stage name. You'd know better
Lady
as a
Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Perfect example. Yes. I think her personal brand is very edgy, very countercultural. To me, thinking about her brand essence, that would make sense. I think then of like a Tate McRae, I was just watching her on SNL. That's why she's top of mind. I think that's her real name. Again, I'm not as well versed in this industry as you are, but like her voice is very like girl next door in my mind. She's not too controversial, or she's not as much as a performer as much as she is a singer. Again, this is my perception. So like the name can be a little bit more generic. I don't know. But I think it's like, as you say, as you think about what you want to convey and how much you want to stand out, a name is obviously very important.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So her real name is Tatiana. So it's
No,
just a
it's
short.
not.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's
so
just a
she
short.
went like, oh, okay, so
The
she
only
shortened
reason
it.
I know that is because someone posted about it on TikTok today. So that's the
Oh,
only reason I know.
okay. Well, I'm impressed. But it's funny because as I think that she comes across as just like a very like Americana type singer. She doesn't sing again, I lack the vocabulary to describe music like you would, but I think she's very just like balanced. She doesn't dress too crazily. She's got a great croony voice. Tatiana might have sounded a little bit too international potentially, and it's super long. It's funny. My husband's name is Jethro, which like I tried to rebrand him when he turned 30. It didn't work. I always say he's so good looking. I should actually give you a picture for you to show the podcast. I think he's like objectively good looking, but his name is hideous. His name is hideous. When we put him in a Weight Watchers commercial, actually, by the way, because when I had my twins, he went on a Weight Watchers and he lost 20 pounds and he looked great. And I cast him in a commercial because I was also in charge of casting for our commercials at Weight Watchers. Again, the marketing expanse is big. You're naming programs. We named my WW. We then are casting for their commercials. It's very expansive. When they're on the TV, we put their name, Talia minus 25 pounds. And Jethro just looked so ugly on the screen. It doesn't flow. People are more distracted by like, is that a real fucking name than like the weight loss? So like we changed him to Jay. But again, little things like that, like sometimes it's instinctive. I think a lot of times you can trust your gut. If something like sounds really weird and you're like, I'm glitching on it, others will probably glitch on it. Now, if that's part of your brand and you want to be like a bit provocative and glitchy and like that's part of your brand, is that like you're completely swim against the current, then that maybe go with a super glitchy name like Jethro or whatever. But otherwise, I think there's probably some websites where you put in some like key attributes about yourself and think of some names. There are some fun name generating websites.
This is fascinating. And especially for someone who's independent, you don't have a team. Typically, in your early stages, I would say a lot of the people tuning into this episode currently are independents or music lovers, but a lot of people are kind of doing it themselves, DIY as much as possible. So even just hearing this conversation around like everything down to your name, how it's spelt, how it appears on a page.
You think about like the key art, which is like the name, the like art that lives on an album. I know that they're not necessarily doing albums, we're not in the 90s anymore. But like if you do have some sort of lockup of your name that you use on social media or something, it's the font, it's the color. Is it super aggressive and is it like a really sharp, edgy font, or is it a softer, more serify font? All of that, we all know it. Again, it's just marketers have the vocabulary to communicate and really understand and adapt to it. Is that like everything creates an emotion, for better or worse. You just look at a name sometimes and you're like, certain words just look softer because they have more round edges than other words. Words that start with a K are sharper than words that start with a J. There's just certain things like that a marketer pays attention to. You can take into account.
You're truly blowing my mind. But really quick, I wanted to ask, I mentioned in your bio you're a fractional CMO. What is that?
Yeah. So I'm a fractional CMO and brand advisor, meaning as of most recently, my most recent traditional role was at Pizza Hut, where I was heading up calendar strategy, which means deciding what products and promotions we bring to market. So if there's a new pizza build, like a white pizza that hits the market, that was my team that identified that there was an increased demand for white pizza. And we think that we need to build one to bring to market to drive more customers into Pizza Hut. And then I also oversaw the media. So like millions of dollars of spend that you kind of deploy across TV, radio, etc. And then our web merchandising. So that's why I got to put most popular on top of a pizza crust and see what it would do. But about a year ago, I decided, as I mentioned, my experience across so many industries, I was kind of ready to put that to work and enable myself to kind of just continue to traverse across multiple industries, force multiply myself. I'm very high horsepower, if you haven't been able to tell. I like to do a lot at once. And so I think I could actually probably parachute into multiple brands, focus on really, really critical strategic shaping or outcomes. And that's what I've been kind of doing. And whether it's a fractional CMO for some of the smaller brands that I support, like Peoplehood or iFlow or JetBuy, where they truly don't have a CMO, and to hire a CMO at their stage in their business maturity wouldn't make sense to pay a CMO, but paying me half of the price of the CMO and the return they get for such concentrated kind of an expertise is worth it for them. And then on the flip side, I also have a brand advisory type of role where I kind of parachute into brands such as, Papa John's is one of my clients right now who I'm absolutely loving, just leading that team in a kind of a similar capacity as I was at Pizza Hut. I did the same thing at Del Taco when I first took on this independent role. The intent is to come in, really reset or reshape strategy, put the people and processes in place, and then be out within 6 months. I should set enough of a vision and put enough process and protocol in place that I make myself obsolete in 6 months and I'm ready to kind of like tackle the next thing. I'm very big on not being one of those consulting leeches that just continuously want to leech on a client, trying to like slow play my deliverables. Like I'm here to give you potent performance pretty quickly. And so I love it. That's what I've been up to now. So it's a bit of a juggle. Like people talk about task switching. It's like, oh, I'm switching between being in meetings or email. I'm literally switching between like being on a call with the Ring doorbell team about like a new doorbell design and then going to a meeting with Papa John's about like a new pizza build or, a new promotion. So, but I like it. I think it keeps me sharp. It keeps me on my toes and I'm very energized and engaged by it. Some people would be exhausted by it, but I think I knew myself enough to know that this was the right move for me.
Yeah, it's keeping it fresh, and each project, even down to the hour, can be something totally different. I really resonate with that. I like fresh, I like keeping things new. And if anything, it gives you more opportunity to be like, hey, here's your X, Y, and Z strategy. And if you execute on that, call me when you're at your next step that you need to evolve again.
Exactly.
We'll revisit it and I can move on.
Exactly.
That's so cool. And so you mentioned, even in just your last statement, like some of these really big brands, Pizza Hut, Ring, WeightWatchers, and more. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned about consumer behavior or even just like marketing in general, working with some of these companies?
Oh, so much. One of the most valuable lessons that I learned, and you hear about it, but you don't fully realize it until you live it. So I don't know if you've heard that quote. Henry Ford was like, consumers can't tell you everything. If I would have asked a consumer what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse. Consumers didn't even think about cars, right? When Ford invented the car, he's like, if I had asked consumers, they wouldn't have said they wanted a car. They didn't know what they didn't know. And so in my mind, I've seen consumers lead brands astray. A perfect example, I think, is WeightWatchers, actually. And so it's all a matter of really trying to pay attention and look under the hood of some things that just don't necessarily seem right in your gut. And I'll tell you an example. I think Weight Watchers, we pivoted to wellness. I think you were there during that pivot, right?
Yeah.
And my gut was like, this isn't the right pivot. I don't think people are looking for wellness. I think people just want to lose weight, right? And we did all these focus groups. Do you want wellness or do you want weight loss? Everyone says wellness. Yeah, that sounds wellness, because they felt too superficial to say weight loss, right? Which makes sense. But then You go on Google Trends, which I call the truth serum of the internet, which Google Trends, by the way, you guys can go to googletrends.com and you can type in anything. So you can type in Tate McRae. You'd probably see her name shoot up this past Saturday because she was on SNL. I'm constantly looking at Google Trends to see who's Googling my competition. So I'll usually type 3 to compare. I'll type in Papa John's, Little Caesars, Pizza Hut, Domino's, of course, and me 4. And like just literally, it's like a line graph of like search volume, right? And I looked at that for Weight Watchers and I said, look at the volume for weight loss. It was like this. And the volume for wellness was like this. And that's the truth serum. But when you're across from someone in a focus group, you feel a little bit vain to be like, yeah, I just want to lose weight, right? So everyone's like, yeah, it's because I want to be healthier. Maybe that's down the line, but I think that we kind of pivoted this strategy. I know it was also about diet culture and the stigma of that in general, but I still wonder if we could have still never given up full ownership of weight loss, because I genuinely think that that's what customers care about. But you have to be careful with what they tell you and what they truly do. There's actually an entire testing methodology called shadow testing, because I think a lot of marketers realized that they will go to focus groups and say, would you buy this bra? I don't know. And they say yes. But now there's shadow testing where it's literally like a fake site and they'll like send the link around. It will let you put in your credit card and stuff. And then it will say transaction cannot be fulfilled. And they at least saw that this person had intent and was like literally going to buy. For someone, because a lot of times also in focus groups, people just want to like please the moderator and they know that you're associated with the brand sometimes. So like, they're like, yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah, pizza's delicious. You know what I mean? So I think that it's just, again, like, take everything with a grain of salt and with a critical eye. I'm not saying that everything that in focus groups is inaccurate or misleading, but I think it's just like really having to apply that second level thinking and critical eye to like everything you see, because it's not always what it seems. And if you don't apply that critical eye thinking, you might take your strategy in the wrong direction, or you might just like miss an opportunity. It's like a layup because you're just not paying attention to like what the consumer really needs or wants.
I've never heard of Google Trends before.
It's available for everyone. Everyone should use it. You can look at what types of, you can type in music, maybe, I don't know, like if you were to type in different music genres and see which ones are trending more, or it's super interesting that it also shows a map of the US. If you search in genres, maybe it will show hot spots of like what states are searching the most on that particular term. So you can start to think about, oh, what state, if someone was planning a tour for like a country tour, I don't know. Again, I'm pretty sure you know the usual suspects if you're a country singer, but I imagine like Nashville and Dallas and whatnot. But it's a very easy and free and accessible interface. You could also just see some trends as they relate to different states and geographies, which is super interesting too.
And one thing you and I discussed previously was like taking all of this experience and knowledge that you have around marketing and how can it apply to music. And I love what you said around searching, even like how you describe yourself. Are you a female country artist? Okay, well, what's popular around female country artist or
Yeah.
male pop artist or young duo group? Like, what is popping around these different subjects?
Yes, for sure. It's really fascinating to leverage Google Trends. Like I'm constantly looking at it from like a competitive standpoint. At Weight Watchers, we would also like literally track trends on New Year's Eve whenever our spots would hit. Like when our TV spots would hit in the New Year's Eve telecast, which like had so many eyeballs, you would literally see our search volume just spike. And we'd be like, okay, our spots hit. We know the hit times hit. So yeah, it's super interesting. It's a fun free tool that like, people can just play around with.
You really blew my mind when you talked about focus groups because I feel like as someone who I'm fascinated by marketing, but I have no formal training. Like everything is just like off of a whim of what, you see online. But my thought would be like, oh yeah, you'd want to know from your fans like what they want. However, what you said around like sometimes they don't even know what they want, that makes me think of artists that have pivoted. Like you think about artists that have different eras, like Taylor Swift comes to mind. She has multiple
That's a
different
perfect
eras.
example I would imagine that I'd be able to relate to. Yes, because she was like country pop at first, right?
Yep, country, then went a little more country pop, then she went pop, then she went folk during the pandemic. I wonder if part of that was because she realized like, well, I'm not about to put out this like hyper pop 80s synth album when people are stuck at their house. Like, what are they going to do with that kind of music? but nobody would have been like, oh yeah, she's about to go folk. So
Yeah.
she drove her audience before they really knew what they wanted. Because I imagine if you had polled her audience and said, oh, do you want folk Americana music from Taylor Swift? I don't know if they would
Hell
say
no. They'd say
yes.
hell no. I think like if there's enough of a connection, what Taylor Swift, no matter what, whatever, whether it's folk, pop, I think her lyrics just like are so relatable, smart. She's like, I can rap it in folk, I can rap it in rap, I can rap it. Like, I'd imagine if that's ultimately her through thread and like that's what she knows, that like ultimately I just have hyper relatable music that like people immediately resonate with. And then to your point, I don't know if she would have asked. I know I, as one of her fans, would have said, hell no, what's folk music? But like now I love every single album she's ever come out with. So yeah, you have to trust your gut. Consumers don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're going to like before they hear it. Obviously, again, listening to consumers. If I test a pizza, you're in the pizza category, you do a bunch of like CLTs, which are like central location tests, bring people in to like try a pizza that you've only made in like the headquarters kitchen, and they try it out and they taste it. And if people aren't like raving about it, but I really believe that like it's a big idea. Like I think that this is going to be just so differentiated, and I think that like with the right commercial wrapper and the right marketing campaign, I could really make this feel like a must try. I might proceed with it. Enough. It's not like they were disgusted by it. They liked it, but it wasn't like, and I'm like, okay, but I think with this extra glow up on it, I can make them really like it. If someone's like, oh, this tastes like shit, like, okay, that I'm not going to try to like, there's this degree of like calculated risk, knowing at what point do I fully listen to them or do I take their feedback and think about how I can actually make them think differently about this product or experience or service based on how I can then market it as well. Because the marketing and the product go hand in hand. I always talk about like Tesla and Toyota Prius. They're effectively the same product. They're both electric vehicles, but no one wants to drive a Prius. I mean, maybe, sorry, guys, if anyone's driving a Prius, but like you'd probably rather drive a Tesla. And that's because of the brand associated, right? Tesla just feels more, I know now Elon Musk is so polarizing, so take him out of the equation, but just about like the brands themselves. The difference in what the brands represent, the product might be really relatively similar, but it's about the marketing and it's about the status that a product or a brand confers on you. It's about the feeling. It's about the brand identity and how sleek it looks. And like there's all that plays into it. A Prius feels very functional. A Tesla feels very premium. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they're both cars that get you from point A to B leveraging EV. So that's marketing. Marketing gives you pricing power. That's why Tesla can charge so much more. I mean, it's obviously, I think they do have more premium handles, and I've read the whole book about like kind of the nuances of the build. But at the most basic level, though, why wouldn't someone just be like, I'm going to save 50 grand and drive a Prius? Like if I just need to get to A and B, because again, marketing, it's social currency. We all want it. We all want what we consume, what we wear, what we look like, confer status, to confer that we have disposable income, that we're well off, that we're popular, that we're good looking, that we're smart. All of these things we love to signal. We're social creatures that ultimately like leverage brands to signal a lot about who we are too. And so if your brand can become a signal that people want to leverage for themselves, that's like the
Holy grail.
The holy grail, exactly.
Okay, this is why I was so excited to bring you on as a guest, because truly the way you broke down the fact that there's essentially, from a functional standpoint, no difference between a Prius and a Tesla. They are both an electronic vehicle. Just like an artist trying to make it as someone that's in the music industry, what is the difference? At the end of the day, you are a musician, you're an artist, you're a singer, you're a songwriter, right? Like you're a title, but it's how you're able to position yourself in this landscape, which is going to allow you to either grow or not grow and build an audience. And that, I think, is one of the biggest hurdles for independent artists. Back in the day, when someone would be approached by a label or work with a label, they had, they would be working with them for artist development. That's what they called it. How do we develop you as an artist?
Mm-hmm.
In today's landscape, it is essentially your responsibility to do
And
all of
then
your
they
artists.
find you once you've been self-developed. Oh, that's
Yep.
interesting.
And basically, at that point, they're just like, we're going to pour money or gasoline on the fire you already started to kindle. From
Mhm.
there, they do have relationships and connections, but they're looking for the proof before they
Right,
invest.
right.
And that's the hardest part for every independent person. How in the world do they begin to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. Again, I don't know how typically, I'd imagine a lot of music is socialized on social media. Is that probably how a lot of music gets sampled? That's where I imagine a lot of the reach is. I also imagine there's like shows that people then go to. But I imagine that the social media following is probably the most quantitative for like an agent or someone to be like, oh, okay, this person's got a following, because that's very quantifiable. Obviously, selling out multiple shows is great too. But when they're probably scraping social media to like see what artists should be on their radar, they're probably looking at like who's the most reach and engagement. I think I was telling you this when we chatted before, but like brands and therefore I assume agents, I know nothing about agents, but brands use this, so I would be surprised if agents didn't as well. We have tools that we can, scrape for any sort of influencer and kind of put any filters on it. I want a female that has a really concentrated reach in these 5 markets, 2 million followers or more, or even 150,000 followers or more. Those are called like more midi micro influencers. If brands are starting to kind of try to keep an eye out for even like those influencers, whether you're an artist or whether you're a physical therapist that just happens to have a following for like your personal profession, that's what we pay attention to. So I imagine that that's what is, again, just an easy way, because it's the most scalable way to kind of just scrape social media and see who's kind of surfacing to the top with the most followers engagement. One thing I think about also is a big piece of brand is just like emotional connection. And it makes me think that, and again, maybe artists already do this, but I remember when I had Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill CD. What was it called where they used to have the lyrics in the cover?
Oh, the jacket,
The jacket. And like I
the
would
CD.
study. Yes. I feel like lyrics are what really you relate to. That's what drives the emotional connection. The music and like the beat. But I think that the words, to me, what like someone really resonates with. Again, I think about Taylor Swift and like some of her lyrics. Holy shit. Which one did I love that I was thinking about the other day while I was running? Before I went on the treadmill and I really didn't want to, I was like, lights, cameras, bitch, smile, even when you want to die. We all know what
You
it's
can
like
do
to
it with
just
a
like
broken
put on a
heart.
fucking smile, and you can do it with a broken heart. You can do it with no sleep. You can do it anyway. So I wonder if, again, this is just like very basic, but nowadays also everyone is looking at social media sound off a lot of the time. I think 85% of people are scrolling through social media sound off. So us as marketers, we're constantly optimizing our assets that are running a social media to be optimized for sound off. So what that means is you're never going to see lip flapping. Like you're not going to see a commercial like this in your feed where you can't listen to it. If we do, we'll always put captions on, because again, our assumption is that 85% of people don't have sound on. As I think about what that means for artists, I just think that like adding captions is probably really helpful. That's how you can pull people in. Again, if they're really a loyal follower of yours and they know that they love you and your music, they'll probably tap on the sound when they come across your story or your post. But I think that sometimes when you're doing a collaborative post with someone, so you might show up in someone else's feed that is they're not familiar with you, you definitely maybe have some captions so that people get an essence of like what you have to say. And ideally, you pick a lyric or a line that you feel like is super broadly appealing or really ownable to you, that when people see, they're going to be like, they get me. Think about what that one, not the elevator pitch, but if like your song were an elevator pitch, what one liner would really make you stand out? Paying attention to optimizing for sound off is probably an important one. And then eventually, when people see you enough and they've seen some of your lyrics, then maybe when they start to, again, scroll by you, they turn on the sound. But just anticipate that 85% of people are listening without sound, because they're listening like in meetings and they don't want their phone going off.
That is so funny. Yeah, totally. People are scrolling in public places too. Like you're
Right?
waiting for the
Yeah.
doctor to come in, so you're scrolling on your phone. Yeah, how do you reach someone when like your thing is an audio format, but people are consuming the most accessible way to reach you, sound off. I've never thought of
Primarily
that.
sound. Yeah.
I wonder if I've seen a couple posts that have been pretty popular, like, oh, do you like Taylor Swift? Do you like Gracie Abrams? Do you like Sabrina Carpenter? You'll like me. And like those I've
Yes.
seen have been doing really well. And I wonder if it's because even if the sound's off, you have a mental image of, well, I know what Taylor Swift's kind of like, and I know what Sabrina Carpenter's kind of like. All right, interesting.
Yes. Yes. With what you would call like a marketing anchor. So it's like anchoring to something that people are already familiar with to give them some anchor, contextualize how to think of you. I know that I'm a very big Taylor Swift fan, so probably someone that called themselves Taylor Swift 2.0 or like the next generation Taylor Swift, you've intrigued me. But at least also, if someone were to say the new age Linkin Park, I'd be like, oh, okay, pass, not interested. So I think like, yes, it helps people easily self-categorize by like giving them an anchor of something more familiar because to introduce yourself to someone just cold, there's a lot more that you need to say. You need to say, this is my background. I sing about this, da, 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 da. But if you just say, I'm like so and so, or I'm like so and so with a twist of, I'm like Taylor, but less angry. I'm like Taylor, but more angry. I'm like just that anchor. And then you can potentially give like a slightly nuanced build on it that's more ownable to you. But absolutely, I think like even at Weight Watchers recently, we were thinking about how we really explain how adaptive our app is. I was just doing a project for them a few months ago and we're trying to just talk about how like the app experience is different for everyone. It has different kind of like reinforcements based on if you're on a streak or what your points look like. And I was like, it's kind of like a Google Maps for weight loss because it's essentially guiding you on your own journey. When you get lost, it reroutes you, but it's all in service of guiding you in your car and your journey. And I guess what I'm getting at is so many light bulbs went off in people's heads when they heard that. It's not going to be external facing language, but it's like the way that we thought about behaving when we build product and we think about, does this feel as intuitive as Google Maps? Does this feel as UX? Is it as seamless and simple? And so when people have an anchor, it helps rally people around something that's a little bit more abstract potentially or unknown.
I actually have two questions off of that. I'm going to start with the anchor component because one thing I hear a lot about in Nashville is like, "Oh, I am red dirt country. I am outlaw country. I am like people make up the most organic titles for what they are because they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be different." The
Mm-hmm.
problem for me is like, I don't know what that means. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious from your perspective, from a marketing standpoint, it's like, I think what right now, so many independent artists are trying to differentiate themselves to the point that they make up these classifications. Is that
Mm-hmm.
harming them? Is that helping them?
Hmm. I think it's a bit of both. So I'm trying to think of an example where it's like, actually for a client right now, I can't really say which one, but we're working on like a trademark productized wrapper, which is just like a way to say, instead of saying all these features, like you can get GPS and da 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 da, we're just going to call it blank IQ. So it's like with blank IQ, the product you're going to be buying is whatever, again, whatever the name is IQ. But then underneath it, we absolutely will need to dimensionalize like GPS, da, 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 and eventually you get to rip that out. But you have to do it together at first to introduce what the heck dirt country is. It's very similar, honestly. Like, and I don't know if you can throw the Weight Watchers logo up at some point in the edit. But remember, for so long we wanted to go to WW, we had to have Weight Watchers reimagined underneath it because no one knew what that WW coin was alone. So similarly, no one knows what dirt country is, but if it's like underneath it is, I don't know, again, a country singer. Who's a good country singer?
Oh my God,
Rascal meets someone. And then eventually you've created this category in someone's mind, and then you can just start to speak about it. You can speak of dirt country alone, just like eventually now the Weight Watchers coin can stand alone. But I think that you need to merge the two during that education period. And it's probably just once you start to see your audience kind of use that language organically. Oh my gosh, I love Chad, hashtag dirt country. you can think that like, okay, maybe this is a thing and like I don't need to continue to qualify it. But I think at first it probably helps people to categorize you a bit.
Yeah. I love what you said about you can use it, but you need to describe it. And it
Yeah.
made you mentioned like internal facing language versus external facing language. And I think that even applies to music. There's people internal to the industry that they might intrinsically know what dirt country means.
Yes.
Um, but that doesn't mean and I could be totally like naive and just be like, I wasn't in that world of country. But to a random fan online who's just trying to find new music they want to stream when they're boating with their buddies on the weekend in the summer,
Mhm.
like I wonder if some of that, what you were saying, like there might be terms that we use internally to the music industry, but that might not be the same exact language that you use on
Yes.
social
Oh my
media.
gosh. It's so true. I feel like this happens all the time. It's inside baseball when you're like talking in a language and saying things that like you think you can use externally. And it's like the customer does not know what the hell you're saying. Yes, I think sometimes because you have the whole picture of what the brand is trying to say, you have all the content pages, you see the communication and content together. So your brain's able to fill in those gaps. But people that are seeing just like these disparate pieces of content and don't have the full picture, you have to be like, can this make sense to stand alone? And does this, to just an everyday person, does this make sense? I do want to say though, I love what you said about the music to listen to on boats. The reason I say that is a very, very big part of QSR, which is quick service restaurant, which is like, again, the Pizza Hut, Del Tacos of the world. You don't necessarily target people because everyone likes pizza. I mean, yes, there are certain people that like it more. There are certain age demographics that consume it more. But for the most part, with pizza, we would think about like occasion segmentation. And it's like you think about occasions that you want to be top of mind for. So we would do a whole need state analysis of like the largest need state was typically dinner night crisis when people are looking for pizza. So like you literally look at of pizza purchasers. And again, this is all like syndicated research that you get as a marketer. And you're like, okay, so primarily dinner night crisis. Okay, cool. So how do I become top of mind for that? Okay, think about that for a second. Okay, then there's one where it's like movie night in with friends. And you start to understand these like need states and occasions that you really want to be top of mind for. Now, the reason I say that, I mean, Domino's Emergency Pizza definitely took that need state analysis and saw that dinner night crisis is a thing. And that's why I think their emergency pizza has been like the best campaign they ever ran. I'm like, oh, why didn't I think about that? Because again, that's an insight of saying like, we know that's when people need us the most. So let's like actually tell them that we will be there when that moment arises. And all of a sudden when people are in dinner night crisis, which again, is 1 out of every 4 transactions in the category, people are more primed for Domino's. But the boating, I think is interesting as you think about if you want to get people to trial your music, are you the ultimate workout playlist? Are you the pop playlist you didn't know your workout needed? Are you the playlist for when you want to feel like a boss on a boat? Is there a vibe that you're selling? Are there occasions? You're bringing the party to house party. And like, so people, when they have house party, they're like, I'm going to play blah, blah, blah. Similarly, how you're able to think about when those occasions arise and own that mind share for those need states. I think if music could potentially own that mind share for those need states or occasions when they arrive, it could be super interesting.
Oh my God, I love that because just to bring back up Taylor Swift, when she wrote the song Shake It Off, she was like, I want to write the song that's played at every single wedding reception. And that's how she wrote that song because she was like,
Look
I
at
want
that occasion
an
analysis.
yeah, I've never thought about that as far as like music.
But it makes a lot of sense.
If you're a young artist, instead of being like, how do I describe myself as the next country big thing? You could be like, do you love driving around on the weekends with your girlfriends going shopping?
Yeah, exactly. Like those need states or occasions, the need state is more like an emotional need or like an actual experience, like a dinner night crisis. There are occasions that are more kind of routine, driving with your kids in the car, going on a boat if you're a boater on the weekends, backyard party. Do you want to be like the go-to for that? And paralysis of choice these days with like feeling so overwhelmed, like when I have a party, what playlist do I put? It's like if you become the go-to in someone's mind, they actually like, they build goodwill towards you because it's like this person kind of like took the load off of me. They told me that they're the playlist for parties. Okay, you can start to like really carve out your niche as like not only a genre, but like an occasion potentially. And obviously, after someone listens to a song at a party, if they really like it, they'll probably be like, oh, what was that song? And then you listen to it in their car too. But like some of those trial or sampling opportunities, you can probably introduce through some of those occasions or need states. Like
That
breakup. I'm the best to listen to for a breakup. And all of a sudden your friends are all forwarding this, like, you gotta listen to this girl's album. Like, I know you want to fucking kill him. This is the best breakup album. It's so fucking savage. Whatever that is, that's a need state and breakup, So I think that it's an interesting way to potentially think about how you frame up your music too, that way.
Okay, so if someone was a young artist and they're looking to build their brand, you've shared so many great tips. Do you have any like starting points? Like, okay, these are the first three questions I would ask myself, or this is the one thing I would want to nail down as someone starting to build a brand for themselves.
Think about the vibe and like the closest anchor to yourself and how you can anchor towards that, but then also add your ownable spin to it. And eventually you can move further away from your anchor, by the way. This is just like, again, this is my instinct of like, while you're really small, trying to anchor to something more familiar. And then kind of like Taylor, like maybe she anchored to like Faith Hill at first and then she completely moved away. I don't know. Obviously, a name is super important. Your look is very important, for better or worse, right? Like how you dress. Are you super grungy? What is your vibe? That's very much like when we think about artists from Britney Spears to Avril Lavigne, they all have a very definitive vibe visually. And it's not to say there's any right or wrong way, but I think having that be a slightly part of your brand that just feels like, oh yeah, that looks like a Taylor outfit. I also do think it's interesting how like Taylor's got her bracelets that her fans wear or make more than she actually does, but that's become so iconic for her. I don't know if there's like something that is meaningful to an artist. Is that something that you always wear? Is it always like a red sock? Eventually, as you think about like your tribe that you're effectively trying to cultivate, do people start coming to your concerts in one red sock? Because people all want to be a part of something. Again, social animals. Ultimately, it's all about psychology and wanting to just be a part of something to confer status or all these other kind of like positive attributes about ourselves. But I think the tribalism is something that I don't think we realize, but it is powerful. And if there's something, again, just slightly unique, like is there a little brooch that you wear all the time? And then does that start to be something that people can make themselves and start to wear? And then you have like these walking billboards, people that are essentially repping you too. They start to wear the brooches and people are like, what's that pigeon brooch? And it's like, oh, I love this singer, Pidge Pap. Again, just like thinking about how you give people the tools to really display their affinity and connection to you when they're ready. If there's something like super authentic and unique to you.
Yeah, and the best part is it doesn't have to be this crazy expensive thing. Like I think
No, it doesn't. It could literally be a pinky ring. I don't know. And like it can be whatever. I think it's an interesting way for people because people love to mirror who they like. And so then it enables to mirror the artist eventually. Again, not like look exactly like them like a swim fan, but do certain things or show their loyalty again, or their tribalism by putting on the Taylor Swift. How much people love wearing those Taylor Swift bracelets because it means that they're part of Taylor Swift's tribe. To them, it means they're part of something. And so I think that could probably happen on a bit of a micro level too, with some of these smaller musicians as they, again, build their fandom.
yeah. And I'm curious how much your brand has to be really like the selling it. So there's an artist in the country world, Jelly Roll. He was an
Love him.
ex-convict. Yeah, like love, right? That's your first response. I love him. He was an ex-convict. He's now pursuing music. His all of his music is about like overcoming trials and tribulations and like the comeback story and like his brand is like who he was as a person too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you see a brand and it doesn't really work for the person, right? Like you're like uncanny valley, like there's just something off. I'm
Yeah.
curious like how people can start to really like fall into something that's gonna feel really authentic to them.
Yeah, I would say anytime it doesn't feel authentic, inauthenticity, people just pick up on it and it's just like not attractive. It feels like you're trying too hard. And I think that like it ultimately just gets rejected. Even when like brands are trying to be who they're not. Sometimes a brand that doesn't necessarily always have like a sense of humor and they try to get on a Twitter joke and it's just, what? That brand doesn't typically have a point of view. Like that's like a Head and Shoulders brand. Why are they trying to troll on Wendy's Twitter? And so it's similarly bringing in your story, your ownable story, which Jelly Roll does so well because it is his true story. I don't really have a good answer for that other than probably what feels authentic. And you know what feels authentic. One knows what feels authentic.
Well, you and I had talked before about a unique selling proposition,
Yes,
USP, and I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things. If an artist can identify what is their unique selling proposition, that can help them start to communicate that differential to their audience or to a potential audience.
exactly, exactly. And I think that that unique selling proposition can be your personal history, which is like life experience that you bring to the music. And like you can feel that in Jelly Roll's music. He's singing about needing a favor from God. And it's like, oh, damn, you can like really relate to his life experience. I think that's like one way that like his unique selling proposition, he's singing about things that many of us haven't experienced, but you can like feel how authentic and real it is to him. Your music does not have to be predicated on a really unique life experience. It can also be predicated on a really unique vocal range or just lyrics in general that are just like super catchy or whatever. Your unique selling proposition could be tied to how you anchor yourself. And not saying you want to pigeonhole yourself right out the gate, but just thinking about some of those ways that you could just drive a bunch of trial and be top of mind.
I know you've shared so many stories of projects that you've worked on with different brands. Is there one particular either like marketing campaign or project that you worked on that you were like so proud of how well it turned out?
Oh, good question. My proudest project is probably one that I did at WeightWatchers. I did a lot of really cool stuff at WeightWatchers. I have to give Mindy Grossman credit. She was the CEO at the time, and she really just let me fly with whatever crazy ideas I came up with. She's a really big thinker too, so I think we aligned on that really well. But if you remember the pandemic, we were all sitting on Zoom all day. I messaged Mindy and I said, "This is an opportunity for Weight Watchers to have a role. Why don't I message the CMO of Zoom and see if we can like build some sort of push notification into the Zoom in a UX that reminds people every 20 minutes to stand up?" Because I did all this research on sedentarism, which is like sitting for too long is so dangerous. And like we went from walking from meeting to meeting every hour to people literally sitting 8 hours with no movement. And so I cold messaged the CMO of Zoom. And sure enough, we launched the Weight Watchers Zoom app during the pandemic. Our Weight Watchers stock bumped for like that entire week. We got a lot of press around it. And I think to me, that was the perfect convergence of solving a pain point or a consumer need where like everyone really appreciated having that reminder because we all were like sitting in our chairs decaying for hours, and being able to opt into that push notification was just a very useful practical value for consumers and Zoom users. And then for Weight Watchers, I used to think it was like 4 Super Bowls of eyeballs in like one day, because I think it was like 100 million people were on Zoom a day. That was like effectively being on a Super Bowl screen for all the people that opted into our push notifications. So I think that one just felt like it was just really grounded in a win-win insight for like the consumer and the brand. And it was executed in a way that I just felt was like such a no-brainer. I loved how willing Mindy was to like, yeah, go and do it, and how open Zoom was to standing it up with us.
That is so cool. What a
I actually
great,
have like a demo of it. I should send it to you if you want to like post it anywhere. I
yeah,
still
I
have it.
would love to see it.
Yeah.
And what a great way of you're looking at like a pain point that everyone is experiencing, something that people are already using. So you're not forcing them to go use this
Yes.
new
Yeah.
software. Like they're already there. It's already a built-in market. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, how can we just drop a little bit of our,
Brand
yeah,
into,
brand.
and it's like fishing where the fish are. And again, with bait that the fish actually care about, which was something that was, they were realizing like, holy shit, oh my, I've gone 3 hours without standing. I should probably stand. And then also, I did build out like a water tracker and stuff too. I didn't bother going into that, but there was a little clicker that you could click how many bottles of water you drank a day so you could stay hydrated. An entire kind of like wellness Zoom glow up that just to me, I just love those win-wins. It was not intrusive for the consumer. It was actually a wanted practical value. And for us as a brand, like we were just top of mind for all of these people while they were stuck at home and using their Zooms all day.
Is there a wish list brand of someone you would love to work with that you're like, I haven't yet made this connection, but I
Oh
would
my
love
God.
to?
Oh my gosh, let's speak this into existence. Yes. It's so funny because I have this on my dream board. The only two brands I would ever go back full time for are Starbucks and Peloton. Like, I am the biggest stand for both. They are part of my daily rituals every day. I drink Starbucks coffee every day. I get on my Peloton treadmill every day. I'm like personally offended when either of the brands gets dogged by like the market, and their stocks are down. I'm like, what are people thinking? How are they so undervalued? This is ridiculous. I just see so much opportunity for Peloton. I think Starbucks is already like really on this course correction path, which is super exciting. Those are like my dream brands, and I feel like I'm gonna have to touch them at some point.
You're speaking it here first. So that way when
Yeah.
it happens, we can post this clip and be
Yes.
like,
Oh
it
my
was
God.
spoken out.
And then everyone's going to want to get on your podcast. They're going to be like, if you say something on Paige's podcast, it comes true.
Hey, that's my unique selling proposition. If you come on the
for being on your podcast.
There was an earlier guest. She was on the show last year, and her name's Jill Moody. She works with the Nashville Songwriting Association, and she's like, my dream is to host a songwriting round on the Grand Ole Opry stage. She goes, like, that is my dream. And I'm like, girl, speak it out, because one day when it happens, you said it here first.
I love it. Let's do it.
I love it.
Give me a year. Let's see if we can do it within a year.
I love that. And hey, what a great example. Peloton is literally a stationary bike, but they built a brand around it. Starbucks is coffee, but they built a brand around it. And
yeah,
that's super cool. Can I ask you a selfish question?
Yeah.
So I would love to pick your brain about the So Rude podcast, talking about branding, talking about marketing. I launched in 2020, over 115 live episodes to date. Any tips or recommendations you might have, or I know short experience of just seeing a little bit more about the show, but like any tips or recommendations you might have for me to consider as I try to grow the show?
I would say, first of all, I'd imagine that everyone that comes on, are you requesting that they share their episode?
A couple guests didn't, and I kind of thought it would be a instinctual thing, and it didn't happen. And these were people with like a bigger audience that I was like really excited about. So now I'm like, yeah, I'm asking people to share it.
Yeah, I almost think that like not asking, but that being a part of like, your outline at the beginning is you almost like share it with them as if it's like assumed that they're going to post it. I'm happy to send you boilerplate copy that like you can just copy and paste, because sometimes people are freaking lazy. Like, that's another thing. Marketers always know to anticipate friction and look to remove it whenever possible. If you're going to anticipate friction on any front where someone's like, oh, I don't know what to post about the podcast, I don't want to be tooting my own horn, or I don't know, be like, I'll even send you the copy, what to tag me at So Rude Podcast. And even when you send the episode to them, it's like, reminder again, here's the copy for you. Please tag us. We appreciate it. I also think getting their handles before they get on your podcast and sharing collaborative posts, that's a great way for you to show up in other people's feeds. Have you seen those posts where if someone collaborates with you, you'll
It's
show
on
up in
both of theirs.
Yeah.
Yes, I know Instagram does that. I'll have to see if
exactly.
other platforms do that too.
Yeah. Getting them to share would be probably the best bet out the gate. And then I'm trying to think of like just other, maybe getting advertisers also, venues or something, because then maybe it's like in exchange, it's like, hey, Majestic Royal in Nashville, I will tell people that there's like all these new, you have a new
like a standing show every Thursday.
Yeah. Hey, Majestic Royal in Nashville, I'm willing to tell people about, X, Y, and Z. Would you mind putting up a flyer about me fishing where the fish are? Like, if you know that indie music lovers are probably the most high propensity to like your podcast, where do they hang out? I also imagine they drink like craft coffee. Again, this is me being stereotypical, but is there like a coffee house where like they tend to congregate in? And could you like leave some sort of, hey, I know it's so rude of me to just ask this favor of you, could you check out my podcast? I think just playing around with showing up, you probably can anticipate where those types of people frequent, and trying to like get some messaging in there that like is breakthrough, and pick your best episode. So it's like, who indie people would appreciate the most? One of those people who weren't so kind to not post, but did they have the most clout in the category? And check out this episode featuring Will Smith. Again, I'm making up, but like all of a sudden it's like, okay, Paige So Rude and Will Smith. Okay, all of a sudden you're like, whether or not the rest of the 114 episodes are people as boring as myself, you at least have that hook, the tip of the spear to try to attract people is of like your brightest, most shiniest object. And again, reducing friction, have a QR code to scan, to like, don't make people have to type in so rude on whatever, scan here, go. I think the biggest principles here are fishing where the fish are and looking for potential friction and removing it.
I love that. And I like what you said about it primarily going to be like music lovers because you're right. There's a lot of people I know in my personal life that are pursuing the artist thing, but like people that want to just listen to a bunch of interviews of artists and people in the industry are probably people that just like are interested in the industry.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. Thank you.
Yes, of
So
course. Let me know how it goes.
I will.
I
I'll
can
definitely keep you.
always be your personal advisor.
I appreciate that. I will definitely take you up on that. Tali, you've left some amazing gems for people listening to this episode, some great advice that they can input in their own lives. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Ooh, know your worth. I feel like that's been a guiding principle of mine in any professional setting. I come across as pretty high conviction, high confidence because I believe that I've earned the right and I have enough of the experience to like be where I'm at and have the opinions and expertise that I do. And if I don't feel like I'm in an environment where I'm valued or that it's a fit, I don't take it personally. This is not a fit. Or like knowing my worth in a relationship and like just knowing that I don't have time for BS. I'm very like intentional about like where I spend my time, the people I spend it with, the brands I work with. It took many years to like be at that point where I had enough confidence to say that and like be able to put my money where my mouth is and like walk away from a job that I don't think is serving me anymore, cut myself off from people that I don't think made enhanced me or made me feel good. And then another one, the feedback I once got was closed mouths don't get fed. And I think that just asking for what you want is super powerful because I think a lot of times we think that some of these asks are going to be so big and it's so daunting and scary. And sometimes when you don't ask, the answer is always no. So when mouths are closed, you're definitely not getting fed, but at least open your mouth, say what you want, shoot your shot.
Learning to be more bold.
Yes.
Well, Talia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I truly learned so much from this conversation.
Oh my gosh. I love hanging out with you. I really need to spend more time with you and just get schooled on music. Can you start just like sending me links to music I should listen to so I can be cooler?
I would love to do that. Yes.
And I'm a Taylor Swift kind of fan, so you kind of know what genre I might like, but like I also do like Jelly Roll. So like I don't know. I just like need like meaningful and moving lyrics. Take that and let's see what you generate for me.
I'm going to send you a handful. Some I think you'll really like, some that might be a little bit right outside your comfort zone,
Okay,
just
but
to
I
see
need
what you
that.
like.
Like I just need
Yes.
a little bit more edge. Like I'm too cookie cutter. So I need you to make me cool. Thank you.
I got you.
Love it.
Amazing. Well, every time I bring a guest on the show, I always end with the same final question, which is, what is one thing you would tell your younger self?
You have no idea how fun life's gonna be. Never in my wildest dreams would have thought that I would have the family that I do, the husband, the children, the amazing parents, a sister that lives 6 houses down from me, a profession that like energizes me so much. I was severely bullied actually throughout middle school. Like, I mean, you can see my eyebrows are thick. Anyone that's watching the video, people called me Wolfenstein. But I guess, like, honestly, like, I would have told myself, you're going to peak later, and that's okay. I would so much rather peak now as an adult than as a teen. That sucks to have peaked when I was 16 and, like, just all downhill from there. So I think I would have told myself, it's only uphill from here. You're going to peak later. Hang in there.
That's iconic. You're going to peak later.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, if anyone is interested in following along with your journey, interested in learning more about your work, or potentially even wants to connect with you about potential collaborations, where can people find you online if they're interested in staying connected?
Sure. Yeah, I would say the easiest place to find me within like my professional realm is on LinkedIn as Talia Solomon. So TaliaSolomon. And I pretty regularly post a lot of just marketing tidbits and insights. So hopefully if we piqued your interest in marketing, you can follow me to get kind of, a continuous dose of some marketing intel.
I strongly recommend connecting with Talia online. That's where I see all of her amazing posts. I will make sure to include that link down in the description. And for everyone tuning in, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, talking all about marketing, Talia's journey, what independent artists can be doing to build their own brand and build brand awareness for themselves. If you're not already following the podcast, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at sorude.podcast. We are also on YouTube, so the entire video episode will be available if you're interested in watching the conversation live. And you can find us on sorudemedia.com if you're interested in learning more about the podcast. As always, have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you follow along so you're up to date about all future exciting guests joining the show, and I will chat with you soon. Bye now.